We have gone from a big, fat, ugly bubble to a big, ugly black hole. The Fed announced they are going to be printing $2 trillion for the stimulus package. 1 quadrillion isn't enough to stop this. We are done. It's a hyperinflation black hole. 20 weeks for your $1,200 bribe to arrive. Good luck paying the rent, mortgage, and even food. Oligarchs to receive bailouts. Everyone else to receive digital toilet paper. At least in Weimar Germany, you could clean your ass with the currency. The US is plummeting into a recession. The evil empire has the ultimate weapon, the printing press. This diabolical machine is capable of bringing death to the dollar and destroying the entire economy. If the inflationary prices of toilet paper on eBay is any indication, we're done out here. And it is just beginning. It's going to be a real mess. Asset bubbles have burst. Real estate prices have to fall. Companies have to fail. This phony service sector economy has to be allowed to unwind. We have to let the free market function. If the government tries to simply manufacture savings out of thin air and get people to go deeper into debt to buy more products that we can't afford, they're going to destroy our currency. Tax receipts are going to implode. Government expenses set to explode. The purchasing power of fiat going to straight to hell, or the stock market gets shut down for a generation. As long as we have lockdown and businesses can't operate, then it makes no difference over how much money the Fed throws at the market. They are controlling everything now: government, police, state. Inflation is basically an increase in money supply that decreases the buying power of the people. More money equals more inflation and debt. It's here, eyes open. Wait until the housing crash begins in a couple of weeks. It will be epic. The government's bankrupting private businesses globally, destroying our livelihood with fear-mongering, while parasites in government get full pay. Sick stuff coming from all governments, and the mainstream media. The public is being lied to on an unprecedented scale. The fact we have to give handouts to corporations twice over the last 15 years is troubling and shows how fragile our economy is and how irresponsible the corporations are. It actually shows we have a weak economy. They are trying to put money in a hole that is collapsing in on itself. The idea that they're going to be able to raise rates when they finally see inflation is nonsense. If they don't raise them now, they'll never raise them. The longer they wait, the harder it's going to get. The Fed's plan is, Step 1, inflate all the debt away. Step 2, create a new US dollar. Step 3, forget what happened. Their solutions are the problem. The Fed's helicopter money would make the virus a lot worse. If the government tries to keep spending at levels before lockdowns began, while at the same time keeping lockdowns in place, there will be simply more money chasing after significantly fewer goods and services. The result of this will be inflation, and a lot of it. Half the country without income and no goods to buy, while the Fed squanders trillions. Money being pumped in, the supply of goods being reduced can only result in hyperinflation. Production under quarantine is not elastic, so the money can only pump up prices. We saw this classically in Venezuela. It wasn't so much money printing that caused the issue, but growth in goods and services not matching the money printed. Here we now have the same. Goodbye financial system. Although I have my doubts, it's worth noting that Q-types have been pushing the fact this year would see an intentional effort to crash the financial system. No surer way to do it than set in motion hyperinflation. Planned or happy coincidence? Now the only question is how much pain is caused and to who. If the system was reset by honorable, wise men with good intentions, we'd come out of it better. But what are the chances those in charge are anything but honorable or wise? The true problem is simultaneous demand and supply shocks, not sequential but parallel, due to authoritarian dictates to shut everything down, states of emergency being imposed, military deployments to enforce curfews or quarantines, loss of rights, speech, assembly, freedoms against search, seizure, arbitrary confinement. What a surprise, the government forces businesses to shut down, but can't quite get it right when it's time to help them. The government has always been better at wrecking the business climate rather than fix it. They are like an arsonist who sets the fire and then turns up to save the victim, but only after the damage has been done. True communist and socialist theory at work. When you account for all the lost income of the workers, the helicopter money, in most cases, simply isn't enough to backfill these losses. And aggregate demand simply will continue to fall even with helicopter money simply because of the lockdown. Currently, the only place to spend money is on groceries. How much toilet paper can people store? $1,000 per family is nothing compared to the trillions that these thieves have stolen from our economy. I have a better idea. Seize the Fed under the RICO Act for involvement in racketeering and funding terrorism, remove all fraudulent income taxes, and rehypothecate all the fraudulent tax receipts back to every single American who paid into this fraudulent system. Establish a gold-backed currency and cut corporate tax rates to give business an incentive to produce in the United States. The boost in income would be phenomenal. The dollar has lost 97% of its value since 1913. The real constitutional dollar would be 33K. You get 1K Fed funny fiat. There is a joke on you. Convert your fiat to gold and silver. Take a stand. Everything is broken or will be broken in a few months. If the virus doesn't kill you, the government measures will kill you by taking your job, limiting your ability to work, limiting what you can eat and where you can travel to. The outlook is bleak at best, not due to the virus but due to government's inactions and then the government's actions. Too many dollars chasing too few goods. Lockdown means little or no new production. Lockdown means consuming what was stored as surplus. Printing means lots of dollars. We all start bidding together on the same scarce resources, resulting in hyperinflation. How is gold not going through the roof? Seriously. People want to hoard toilet paper, but not gold. Can they not see the coming hyperinflation? More money, fewer goods. Do the math. Welcome back to the Atlantis report. Please take some time to subscribe to my backup channels. I do upload videos there, too. You'll find the links in the description box. You will also find a PayPal link if you want to make a donation. Thank you. Recession is when your neighbor loses his job, depression is when you lose yours. Hyperinflation, when a country experiences a monthly inflation rate of over 50% or around 13,000% annual inflation. Extreme inflation also forces people to spend as quickly as possible rather than save or lend, so there is no money available to fund new businesses. And all that uncertainty limits foreign investment and trade. B. The more money you print, the more inflation you get. C. Economists call the number of times a dollar is spent per year a velocity of money. When people spend their money as quickly as they get it, that increases velocity, which pushes inflation up even faster. Depression. After the initial crash in 1929, the Federal Reserve dropped interest rates to zero, output and prices fell, and regular people started to expect further price declines. Unemployment rose to 25%, and the average family income dropped by around 40%. Stagflation, when output slows down or stops, or stagnates at the same time that prices rise. Stagnant economy plus inflation equals stagflation. The Fed tried to address this by boosting the money supply and cutting interest rates, but output couldn't rise much because of low productivity and the oil shortage. So all that extra money just triggered inflation. Hyperinflation occurs when you have too much money chasing too few goods. In every case where it has occurred, there was some kind of event that disrupted the natural amount of goods that a country could produce. Even without printing money, hyperinflation will happen. Zimbabwe. That's because Mugabe seized all the decent farmland and gave it to his cronies who didn't know the first thing about farming. Germany. All their farms and factories were destroyed by the war, and printing money to pay back World War I debt made things worse. We even had a bout of hyperinflation in the USA after the Civil War. Not with Union dollars, but with Confederate dollars. Nothing to do with the Confederacy printing money, but since they were losing the war, nobody would accept it as money anymore. Or, more recently, Venezuela. Price controls strangled the farmers and factory owners, so they had to either lose money or shut down, so they shut down. Not a problem, as long as oil money was coming in, they could import goods from elsewhere. But now that oil money is gone. They have hyperinflation. When Milton Friedman made the quote about helicopter money, in 1969 he did so as a kind of joke or argumentum ad absurdum, a ridiculous scenario to prove a point about supposedly one-off monetary expansions done in response to the crisis. The fuckwit Bernanke then revived the notion, as a serious proposal. The elephant in the room that nobody ever seems to notice, let alone address, is that economies function from the bottom up, but money flows from the top down. If the top and the bottom have similar goals, advancement of society and standard of living for everyone, then the top-down approach possibly can work. If the top has goals that only seek to improve the standard of living of the top, at the expense of everyone else, then the issuance of money can never possibly fix any economic malady, as the malady is caused by the group that receives the money. Until governments truly embrace the mission of improving society as a whole, we are doomed to suffer repeatedly worsening crisis, ultimately leading to conflagration. Of course, governments need to be held to account. Society has naively believed that voting will right previous governments' wrongs, but history has shown that not to be the case. The United States was sold to the top officially in 1913, with the rest of the world selling out to the Bretton Woods Agreement when they were extremely weak. Until the Fed and Bretton Woods are abolished, and private central banking outlawed, absolutely nothing can be fixed. If anyone is still under the illusion that voting is going to accomplish that, sadly, most are, then the world is doomed. If the world is to survive and progress, then the peoples of the world will have to make demands that cannot be rebuffed. That doesn't mean protesting, it means force, because that is all the power that we understand. America is a casino for the so-called elites, not a democracy or even a nation. The economy is falling off a cliff. We don't need the Fed to push it. The Federal Reserve isn't a part of the federal government. End the Fed now. This was the Atlantis Report. Please like, share, subscribe. And please take some time to subscribe to my backup channels, I do upload videos there too. You'll find the links in the description box. You will also find a PayPal link if you want to make a donation. Thank you.